Morning, guys. I was trying to finish off my breakfast before it decided to go live. I didn't make it. So, on September the 11th through the 13th, Catherine and I are going to be in Santa Rosa, California. They asked us while we were in Missouri if we'd like to come and do a demonstration at their bigger show. And we thought that would be super fun. So, trying to get ready. I have all of this fiber that I'm taking as demos. This one is flax. It's what you make into linen. It's quite coarse and it takes a lot of prep to get it done. And I really, hey, Bobby's here. Bobby's going with us too, so you'll get to see her again. That will be super exciting. And she's going to bring her Kromsky wheel. We'll have Spinolution wheels. And we're really excited she's coming. It's really fun when we all get together. We did the same thing in Missouri, and it was loads of fun. The only person missing will be John, which will be sad he'll be missing, but we're excited that Bobby's coming. So this is flax, unbleached flax, and it takes quite a bit of prep. Like a lot of times you can take wool, and it will, it's pretty straightforward how you prepare it and make it and bigger or smaller, but with it, flax is quite different. So what I'm going to be doing is taking some ribbon and breaking off hanks of each of these fibers, putting ribbon around it, and then putting it in a bundle so that people can try the mint. I have bamboo. I have rami. The rami is the nettle fiber, if I remember correctly. I might need to look it up, but I believe it is. And the interesting thing I thought about the rami fiber was that it has like these very short, I wouldn't call them sharp, but they are very straight. They're very straight fiber. They don't necessarily bend and cling to each other the same way that other fibers do. Good morning, Chris. How are you? So this is just what I was doing this morning, so this is what I'm talking about, and I apologize if it's super boring. If you guys want to talk about something else, make sure to bring it up. I do have the rocket stove going. I guess I could turn and show it to you. It's the 1st of September, but we've had the stove going for a week and a half now. You can see the little blade is going. Good morning, Anita. And we don't have lights, so sometimes it's hard to know if you guys can see very well or not. But usually I have these closed so that we have some light that kind of bounces back in my face. Let's see, which is the one that was my favorite? I had one of them that was just really neat, and I couldn't. This one is called Sea Cell, and it is delightful. It's very soft, very easy to work with. I would almost compare it to Angora Rabbit as far as softness, but it was much easier to work with, and when the fibers got up in the air, they didn't bother me as much as Angora Rabbit does. So this might be one of my new favorites. And by the way, once I get all of these bundled, I will have them over in the Etsy store if anybody is interested in seeing them. And then this was the other one that I was really kind of blown away by. It is a mint cellulose fiber. And it's very soft. They have all these really neat new plant fibers that are coming out, and I'm really kind of enchanted by them. It's kind of a new thought for me. Even though I use a lot of wool and I use a lot of animal fibers, a lot of times I do it at the expense of a couple little hives here and there. It's kind of retraining my system so that I don't react to too many things, but sometimes it's just nice to use a fiber that I don't react to at all. That's nice. Okay, this one is bamboo. It also works up very nice. Bamboo makes a very drapey, very flowy, very cool fiber. It's really good for making things if you're going to make something in the summer. But I think if you're going to spin this, you want to do it into thread weight and maybe use it in weaving to make fabric as opposed to knitting. A lot of plant fibers are used in weaving because they can have that nice drape. They don't have to be bulky. They don't have to be too warm. Good morning, good morning. Arlene is here. Kentucky Home is here. We can't find nettle on our property. I'm going to try. So I grow mine from seed because I didn't have any nettles on my property. Yes, you want to put them somewhere where there's a pretty good drip of water in all year round, and make sure to mulch them with rabbit manure. They really like fertile soil. I do not have fertile soil, so I really had to baby my nettles. And now I have two, one, two, is it just two? I have two patches of them, one in the greenhouse, one in my roundabout in a spot where the kids, oh no, I have three. I planted them right next to my front door. I wanted to make sure they'd live, so the kids have learned not to be rushing around the front door too much, because if they fall into that small patch of nettles, they'll be sorry. So let's see, what did I put together? I think this is the bag. Hard to tell. This looks like the one I just worked up, but I'm not positive. Anyway, so that's what's going on. So the 11th through the 13th will be in Santa Rosa, and then we will be, for a few hours, we will be in Riverside, California, in that area. And so if we will be flying, if there's anybody who wants to do a little bit of a meet and greet at the Santa Rosa, we need to know the day and time, because there's a good likelihood that we'll be at the Expo, probably not the full day, because we have to drive back to our home share place. And it's about an hour and a half away, and since we have to do it morning and night, we might cut ends at night and not stay quite as late at night, because staying till 9 o'clock at night at the fair sounds like it might be just a bit too much for us. What else is there to talk about? Yeah, I can't really think of anything. Anybody have any questions? We brought a lovely girl to help us with our channel, and you guys probably all know her, Elizabeth. And she is at Little Farm Big Dreams, and she is absolutely lovely. So you'll see a lot of posts from her. We've been putting more posts on the website. The website is still a little bit wonky. Some of the links don't work as well as they need to, but I am trying really hard to get up some blogs that have a lot of different subject matter in them. I just did one about wood stoves. We've done some about fall harvesting, and hey Denise, and oh, I'm having a hard time reading. Let's see. Everybody's saying good morning. All right. So things that I need to do before we leave, I need to get out and I need to get my scythe going. I need to cut down the alfalfa, because what happens with alfalfa is when it goes to seed, all the nitrogen comes out of the soil and into the seeds. So if you let a lot of your nitrogen producing things go to seed, it actually robs your soil of nitrogen. And so that's why it's really important, if you're doing something like alfalfa, that you go out and you cut and drop it before it goes to seed, so that while the nitrogen is in the soil, while the nitrogen is in the plant, it lays down and it feeds your soil. And I've let it go too far this year, so it's robbing nitrogen instead of creating it. The other thing is, I still need to get the back space here. I need to get the compost pile taken down and moved up to the front to turn into more of a greenhouse. What else do I need to do? I need to take down all the clotheslines, and next year when I come back, I am not going to be stringing clotheslines from trees to tiny house to trees to tiny house. I don't like how it looks, and you know how your surroundings just kind of take a toll on you? They lift you up or they pull you down. At this moment in time, even though none of it is scattered and it isn't actually a mess, it doesn't look very nice, and it's definitely not singing to my heart about lovely things when I look at the back space. The reason we have it on the back space is because we don't want the shed to look like it's being lived in necessarily. We don't want it to be obvious to the outside eye that this is what we're doing. Not that what we're doing is illegal, because we do own the property, and this is our house. But I don't know, it just feels like for local people, maybe it's nobody's business, and so we keep anything that looks like we're living here on the back. But I would like to just make it a lot prettier. It's just pulling at me. Let's see, Danny made it. And My Kentucky Home is saying, we are trying a fall garden for the first time, spinach, lettuce, all of that fun. Good job. That is exciting. One of the things that is hardest about leaving right now is that I leave behind all the processes. Any project I was in the middle of, I have to leave it. And homesteading projects are best when they have a farmer that checks on them constantly. Even if you're not doing anything with them, you're walking past them, you're checking on how they're doing, and you're just tweaking things a little bit. And when I leave for 6 months out of the year, all that falls flat. So there isn't as much progression on this little section of the homestead as there would be if I was here all year round. But We are going back to Tulsa to be with John. So right now Tulsa is home because we are missing a member of our family. When I get there, my plan is we can have pets in the apartment. And so I'm going to bring some pets in. We have had quail in the house before. When we first got quail, I wanted to experiment to see if it was possible to keep quail in the house and not have it be disgusting. And honestly, no, it was disgusting. Quail, when they're in captivity, have very dirty habits that when they're outside, which is what we did, we put them in the greenhouse. When they're outside, they're much cleaner birds. When they have this enormous amount of space and they have plants to hide under and straw to rub up against, they're very clean. When they're in the house, what they do is every time they eat or drink anything, they shake their head really hard and it sprays everywhere. And they fight a lot and they get kind of down, kind of mangy looking. And our quail were just incredibly happy out in the greenhouse. But I'm going to try again. I will have to cut it down to just a couple of animals because it is quite a small apartment, and I will have to be very careful about how I protect walls and how I protect floors, and we have to get permission from the renting establishment, but you're allowed to as long as I'm very careful in the way that I set it up. But it means I'm going to have to protect every side except the front from them being able to shake their heads, and I'm going to have to put something under the cage, and I'm going to have to change their bedding every day to keep smell down. We did it before in our actual house. Hold on a second. I've got tea that wants to be turned off. For those of you who have not seen our Elmira stove, this is our Elmira cook stove. This is the one that we were using in the big house. And it is a lovely stove, but it is much too much of a stove and it's not as efficient as the rocket stove, so that's why we use the rocket stove. And what you're seeing right now, if you guys remember, this is the quilt that was in the blue room in our big house, and this is all my fiber that I'm trying to get ready. So that's what you're seeing right now. My in-laws just moved, and what's happening there is that everything that we had in storage while we were traveling was at my in-laws, and now my in-laws are moving, and there were just a few things that were left, like the quilt. I had one hope chest over at my in-laws that was full of sewing notions and thread, and this one big beautiful quilt. So that's why, and we just went over and got the last of it yesterday, so that's why you're seeing that we have what looks like a construction zone in our house. All right, so that's the plan is, I'll try and scoop forward so you can see me. We're going to do quail, and I'll probably just have 2 quail. I want to see if it's possible, because it's going to cost me $150 a head for every animal that I bring in, and that's pretty expensive for quail. The other thing that I could do is I could bring in some rabbits, and we could try raising meat rabbits, but again, space. If you have a pregnant doe and she has 7 babies, that means you're going to have 8 rabbits in this apartment if you're actually planning on eating them. And that is a lot of rabbits, and I do not think you could keep the smell down, and I do not think that it would be, I just don't think it would be very hygienic to keep that many rabbits inside. It's one thing if you're keeping 1 or 2 pet rabbits in an apartment, but it's another thing if you're actually breeding them and eating them, because they need to get to at least 8 weeks old before you can butcher them. Les said, Stringfield Ridge Farm. Yes, and we've done quail, and we love the eggs, and they're super easy, and we love the noises they make, but when they're indoors, they are so dirty. So those are the things I'm kind of leaning towards. If I can figure out how to do them, I'm excited to share it with you guys, but I'm a little bit dubious about it. I'd much rather have just a space outdoors to do it. I think the animals are healthier. I think the animals are happier. But we almost don't have space even for a couple of grow boxes. And so if I can find a community garden. I've looked for community gardens. I haven't really found any that are close enough that we can get to them because we'll be on bikes. John will be taking the car to work, and we're right next to a big, beautiful bike path that goes everywhere. But we haven't found a community garden close enough that it would be realistic to use it. But a lot of times in community gardens, they'll have something like chickens or rabbits, and so we could ask them, can we build and have a rabbit hutch here, and then we can use the manure for the garden? Can we build a chicken coop here and bring chickens, and we'll use it for the garden? And there's eggs, and people can help if they want. So that's kind of my mission, is to see, reaching out into the community when we get there, can we create a homesteading atmosphere and food supply while living in an apartment? And so this will be a little bit of a stretch. When we're on our big homestead here, we can provide so much of our own that we don't necessarily need as big of a support from the community. We buy our hay, we buy our feed, but we bring it in big trailers, and it's not a big deal. In the rental house before, we had to learn new skills of keeping the animals quiet and just dealing with it differently, dealing with butchering differently, because we were in town, so that was different. We had less space. Finding a spot where the sun would shine all the time instead of being in deep shadow, that was interesting. So now this time around, we're going to do it in an apartment, and either we have to figure out how to grow them in the apartment and pay $150 a head to have them there, or we need to find a community garden where we could have the animals, have a little garden spot, and then just go and take care of them every day, which I think would be great. It would be good exercise for us. It'll get us out of the house. I think the biggest danger of our comfortable lifestyle now is that we don't get outside and we don't get enough sunshine, we don't get enough air. And so if you have livestock, it forces you outside, and it forces you to take care of yourself. That, in my opinion, that's a huge part of self-care, is getting outside, getting air, getting exercise. So we have been on for 17 minutes, and I totally missed if anybody's saying anything, and I still don't have anything fun or anything to show you, do I? Okay, Missy, what are you doing?
I want to know if these are still edible because they dropped in the pasture.
Yeah, they're probably fine.
Okay, because I just washed them too.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, Flying Best Barns, have you ever considered a tower garden or vertical? That's a good idea. We could probably do a vertical one. Pardon me. What we have at the apartment is lots of like privet bushes type bushes, and they're quite prickly, and there's not even a space between the privet bushes to lean up against the house. If you go across the street, you have like maybe 3 feet on each side that you could put something, but in our particular spot, we have nothing. We don't even have concrete. We just have this teeny tiny little space. I'm half tempted to ask the apartment people if they have a blank spot where I could put a garden. It like back behind in a weedy patch somewhere. Is there, hey guys, could I put something here? The only thing is, if I do that, I don't know what people will be putting on it. Like a lot of times abandoned lots are places where people dump stuff, or they're places where people go and do nefarious things, and they're where loose dogs go and poop. And so this one is from Humble Owl. This particular bat is from Humble Owl B. It's all one word on Etsy. H is capital, O is capital, B is capital. Humble Owl B on Facebook and Etsy. Let's see, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah, so we have zero space. The reason that we picked this particular apartment was because we knew we'd be on bikes a lot, and the apartment the house we were at before was a nice little house, but it was completely landlocked by freeways. You couldn't get anywhere on bikes safely, especially not with kids. And so one of the ways that I depend on getting places and getting enough exercise is biking. And we couldn't do it. We tried it once, and it was very unsafe, very scary, and so we weren't able to do it again. So that's why this particular place was good, even though there were other places we saw where we could have rented and we could have had a backyard. It wasn't, well, at the time, anyway, we were looking and we're like, do we want to pay that much? And then it turns out the apartment and the house were the same price now that we went and looked more. But you know, we've done what we can to find something that works. Oh, John says he's going to cry because we're not calling back. I should probably go call my husband. I think he tried to call. That means he's not watching my live stream. Jonathan, you should get on so you can see us. Funny man. So right now we are conversing with John on the phone several times a day, but it is starting to feel like it's been a long time, and we're kind of trying to stay really busy and really cheerful while we're waiting to go down there. Even though we love the little house and it's very comfortable, it's very warm. We are ready to be reunited. We've done this for so long, 3 months here, 3 months there, that I'm kind of hoping that it doesn't have to be quite that way anymore. But at most 1 month here and 1 month there. So Kaya would like us to only be traveling for about a month at a time now, which I think that would be a good idea too. But it is hard to get a garden started in 1 month. And John did a really good job this last spring at keeping my garden alive by watering it, but I wasn't there to harvest and it got really overgrown. And that's a problem, but he doesn't really have time to maintain a garden that I plant if I'm gone for that long. He doesn't have the interest in it, and he doesn't necessarily know how to take care of it. So that matters. All right, so I need to go get little girls ready for church. Does anybody have anything else we want to talk about? I know that a lot of you aren't getting the notification until after I've been on for several more minutes than I have been this morning, but I am doing my best. And again, I've got hungry girls that I need to go feed and get ready for church. And that is what we're doing. So if you're going to be around Santa Rosa, California, or if you want to drive in for a few hours, make sure to follow us on Facebook, because Dirtpatcheaven on Facebook, because we will be posting if we're leaving the expo early, if we need to leave early because we need to get back to our rooms and we're kind of burned out. We are supposed to be over by the Navajo Churro sheep to do the demonstrations over there, and they say that they have picnic tables over there and it should be cooler than it is inside. That's a good idea. Flying BS Farms, we could rent space from a homesteader. We've actually had people who have offered to have us come and rent from them on their big homestead, but it's about an hour and a half away from where John is working, and since he's going to school and working, he has 14-hour days right now, and we want to maximize the amount of time we get to see him. And so this apartment is only about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes at most away from where he's working and where he's going to school. And so we were willing to pay the higher prices to get a really convenient place where we could use the biking path so he could use the van, and he could get to school and he could get to work quickly, and then he could get home quickly. And again, we did have a house right there next to it that we could have rented that would have fit all those things, and he was willing to let us have chickens and rabbits and everything else. And then John didn't get the paperwork back because he came to see us for 2 weeks, and so instead we ended up getting this apartment. What are you gonna do? It will add depth to our videos, I guess. It will really let me experience and see and address what a lot of people who want to be homesteading but are stuck in tiny places that won't let them bring animals in, or tiny places where there just isn't room. So this will make me stretch and grow and say, okay, so for those of you who are in this situation, this is what you can do. These are the plants you need to grow. This is how to do as much as you possibly can and still get your homesteading desires met, even if you don't have the ideal situation. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it, is that maybe we weren't meant to get the house, because now I really need to dig deep and show what you can do when you really are in a very difficult situation. So I've got to find a community garden, I've got to find a neighbor, I've got to find something where I can show you how to raise your own meat and how to raise your own vegetables and fruit and this kind of thing, and do it from an apartment in the middle of a very large city with millions of people in it. It's a very urban situation. Where we were before was a little bit of a residential situation. It wasn't directly in the middle of the town. Honey, I know you like to pop in, but just hold still.
I was asking if I could interrupt and show.
Yes, you can show plums.
So this one it's not all the way ripe, but close to ripe.
These are our Stanley prunes. They're an Italian prune, and they're lovely for dehydrating. They don't have all the juiciness that regular plums do. They're quite firm. They're still sweet, but they're super easy to dehydrate. Thank you. So where we were before was in little residential strip houses type cutesy. And this is directly right next to like skyscrapers type place. And thousands of people in an apartment complex. And asphalt. And so very, very different situation. We'll have to see how it goes. So, okay. I'm going to go and feed little kids, and so that they're not getting sick from eating just plums for breakfast. And I will try to keep you guys updated. Go over and check out my blog, dirtpatcheaven.com, as I'm kind of doing a brain dump as I'm going through this process to keep you guys up to date. If you're interested in any of these fibers that I'm going to be putting together, I will have them over on the Etsy store. And I will have a little bundle of each, a few ounces of each of these different kind of plant fibers if you want to play with them. And I have one bat that I've already put together. And I will. What I'm trying to do is get everything in my little house sold that's fiber related before I leave, so that it's not sitting here getting eaten by mice over the winter. So I am really trying to get things out the door, and it's the reason I'm taking them to Santa Rosa. And anyway, we have things like this, the little drop spindle, very inexpensive way to start spinning. And we have our ebooks for poultry, including quail. We have our ebooks for pigs and goats and rabbits. So those are the 4 ebooks that I have over on the Etsy store. We have recipes for skincare, for hair serum to help you if your hair isn't growing the way you want it to, or if you have a sensitive scalp, which is how I started out. And then just as a byproduct, my hair started to grow in really nice and thick after I addressed what I was doing to my hair with all these chemical products. Anyway, is there anything else? Make sure to go check out Catherine's content. She's at Little Bits of Heaven Homestead on Facebook. She does have a website that will be fixed here soon. It accidentally got erased. And then we have Elizabeth over at Little Farm Big Dreams. That is her channel here on YouTube. And then I'm trying to remember if she changed the name of her channel on Instagram. I'll have to ask her about that. But make sure to go check them out. They are wonderful ladies who I love rubbing shoulders with, and their content is top notch. And make sure to leave any questions in the description. And we love you guys, and we appreciate you. And we'll talk to you later. But only if I can figure out how.